So you've built a large language model. You might think the hard part is over, but really, the challenge is just getting started. How do you actually know if your model's any good? And, maybe more importantly, how do you get it out of your lab and into the real world? Let's break it all down. Okay, think about it. You've poured all those hours into collecting data, tweaking the architecture, and training your model. It's finally done. So what happens now? How do you turn this amazing piece of tech into something that's actually useful, reliable, and in the hands of users? That whole journey really kicks off with one fundamental question. And here it is. First things first. Is my model any good? And I don't mean a gut feeling. Good has to be a number, something we can measure objectively. Before you can even dream of deploying this thing, you have to prove it works. Now, there's no single magic number that proves a model is good. The right metric really depends on what you built it to do. Is it translating Spanish to English? Summarizing long reports? The goal dictates the yardstick. So let's look at some of the heavy hitters. First up, we have Perplexity. This one sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It basically measures how surprised your model is by a sentence. A really good model is less surprised because it's great at predicting the next word. So for Perplexity, a lower score is always better. Now, if you're in the world of machine translation, your best friend is the BLEU score. This metric compares your model's translation to one done by a professional human translator. The closer your model gets to the human version in wording and phrasing, the higher its BLEU score. And what if you're summarizing text? Well, for that, you'll want to use ROUGE. Think of it like this. It checks to see if your model's summary picked up all the crucial bits, the key names, facts, and ideas that were in a summary written by a person. So, you've picked your metrics, you're ready to go. But hold on. The evaluation process itself is kind of like a minefield. It's not just about running the numbers, it's about knowing what can go wrong, and more importantly, how to fix it. And the biggest trap of all is something called overfitting. This is when your model doesn't really learn the patterns, it just memorizes the training data. It's like a student who memorizes every single practice question word for word, but then completely bombs the final exam because the questions are different. Luckily, we have a whole toolkit to fight overfitting. Techniques like dropout, for example, force the model to learn more robustly by randomly switching off parts of its brain during training. And early stopping is just what it sounds like. You stop training at that perfect moment right before the model goes from learning to just memorizing. All right, so your model has passed its exams with flying colors. It's ready for the real world. That brings us to our next big chapter, deployment. How do we get this thing out of the lab and into the hands of actual users? You've really got two main roads you can go down. First, there's the cloud. Think AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure. This gives you almost infinite scale and power. The other road is deploying to edge devices, like a smartphone. This gives you insane speed and privacy since the data never has to leave the device. As you can see, there are some pretty serious pros and cons to each. And that's exactly why deployment isn't just about flipping a switch. It's a strategic decision. You have to pick the right approach for your specific environment, thinking through all the variables on the ground before you even think about launching. And no matter which road you take, you're going to face the same critical questions. Can this thing scale if we suddenly get 1 million users? How fast is the response for the end user? And what about security and, of course, the cost? These are the trade-offs at the heart of every single deployment. Okay, your model is live. People are using it. Mission accomplished, right? You can finally relax? Not quite. Deployment isn't the finish line. It's actually the starting line for a whole new race, keeping your model healthy and effective out in the wild. See, the biggest threat to a model in production is something called model drift. The world changes, right? Language evolves, new slang pops up, new topics become popular. The data your model sees today starts to look different from the data it was trained on yesterday. And when that happens, its performance starts to slip. The only way to fight this is with a constant cycle of improvement. You have to monitor its live performance, identify where it's starting to get things wrong, and then retrain it with fresh, new data to keep it relevant. Then you test it all over again and redeploy. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a loop that never ends. Which leaves us with a pretty critical question for any live model. Once it's out there in the world, is it still learning and getting smarter? Or is it slowly forgetting, becoming a fossil of the data it was trained on months or even years ago? Hey, if you found this breakdown helpful, Do me a favor and share it with a friend or a colleague who might be tackling these same problems. And of course, subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks so much for tuning in.